All right, guys, welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we're breaking down Washington and Michigan. These two will clash in Ann Arbor on Saturday night in primetime ABC television. Spread's currently 6 with the Wolverines favored. Over-under is a low total at 51. This is the 13th total meeting between these two. It's the first since 2002. Michigan leads the series 7-5. Looking at this Washington offense to get things started, Dylan Morris threw 3 interceptions last week against Montana. His pass catchers didn't help him out much other than Cade Otton. Taj Davis, he caught 6 passes for 59 yards, but they had a ton of key drops in the fourth quarter. It felt as if the receiving corps couldn't make a play to save their life. And, of course, down the stretch, that really plagued them. Morris, it wasn't his best showing. The inexperience with the receiving corps. These guys are really going to struggle, I think, on Saturday because they are down 4 guys who are very important for this receiving group. It was already thin to begin with, and now you have 4 guys who are injured indefinitely. Terrell Bynum is questionable, but other than that, 3 starters are down. If Bynum doesn't play, then you're just going to hurt yourself even more. I think Washington needs to get Giles Jaxson more involved. They're going to lean on Cade Otton a lot. Michigan's going to look to try to shade him away. So Giles Jaxson, the former Michigan player, that is, in his return to Ann Arbor, they're going to have to find ways to get him involved. I think for the most part, this passing attack's probably going to struggle. We'll get to the Michigan defense later, but the inexperience of what I saw last week, it wasn't pretty, and it's hard to have much faith in them going forward, at least in the short term. So that's a big concern for them. Dylan Morris, though, he was really good last year off play action. He had his bright spots, his bad spots. But this offense, they couldn't get anything going on the ground last year, so it made it even harder on Morris. And again, he has those inexperienced receivers. It's just a very bad combo for Washington. It's a very powerful offensive line. It's one of my favorites on all of FBS. 5 very powerful guys. Left tackle Jaxson Kirkland. He's one of the best in all of FBS. He's going to have a tough matchup with Aiden Hutchinson on Saturday night. We'll get to that later. But these guys are no joke. The talent they have, the measurables, the size, they're really good. So it was kind of shocking not to see them run behind them. They didn't do a very good job of doing it. When you don't count the sacks, they ran 23 carries for 89 yards. It's not a very good average. This offense is going to want to run the ball effectively, efficiently. They have a nice rotation of backs. Richard Newton got all the carries last week. I want to see them get Kamari Pleasant more involved, Sean McGrew. I think they're certainly going to test the depth of this Michigan defensive line. I know Jimmy Lake in practice this week, I'm sure, is focused amply on this offensive line, generating more consistent push. They're plenty capable of doing it. So last week was incredibly disappointing. And again, they have a nice group of backs, so I'd like to see them get more touches. Looking at the Michigan offense, Ronnie Bell tore an ACL, their top playmaker and their top pass catcher. He's going to be out for the remainder of the season. Absolutely terrible. He looked really good. He had a nice one-handed grab that did not count, but he was showing off those nice hands. He also had a 76-yard touchdown reception against Western Michigan. So a terrible way to go out. He was going to have a big season for them. It's really going to hurt them at receiver too. And we just talked about Washington's issues at receiver. It's a tad bit better at Michigan, I'd say. Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, Dalen Baldwin, Andrell Anthony. They have some guys who are going to step up. I like this receiving group. I have a little bit of faith in them. I think I have more trust in them than I do with Washington's. A lot of young talent. Dalen Baldwin, as mentioned, second. He had a 69-yard touchdown reception last week. Michigan, they only had 13 completions last week, though, so they didn't really prep anyone for Bell's absence. That's going to be the focal point in practice this week. But altogether, it's a lot of inexperience there for Michigan as well. So neither passing attack, I think, is really going to be too strong. We'll get to the defenses later and get my general thoughts with their matchups. But Cade McNamara, he was good. 9 for 11, 136. J.J. McCarthy got in there a little bit as well. McNamara, I like him. This is only his third career start. Last year against Rutgers, he came in for Joe Milton. He shined. He was a gamer, led them back to a comeback. I'm really impressed. I've seen some impressive things from his downfield passing. Again, a gamer, mobile, can stand in the pocket, dance a little bit, make some plays. It's going to be, they had an overall impressive showing last week, but it's going to be a new animal at this Washington defense. McNamara, the last time he played a defense it was this good, I think it was his first career start against Penn State last year, and he struggled big time. So small sample size for him and Dylan Morris. We'll get to that later when I compare the quarterbacks. But this is going to be a big test for McNamara, and he's going to have to play well. Michigan, they ran the ball very well, 335 yards. Blake Corum, this guy's a complete Swiss Army knife, very versatile. He ran the ball for 100-plus last week. He caught a touchdown pass, took a kick return 79 yards. He didn't house it, but he took it very deep into the opposing territory. Hassan Haskins, the kind of change of pace back. He's the more physical of the two, I'd say. Very nice group. They have Donovan Edwards as well. Ran for 335. They did a great job of sealing the edge last week on the run. Of course, they face a much more athletic defense this Saturday. But I think the offensive line, I really like them. They're very underappreciated last year. They're very good last season. Good start last week against Western Michigan. Anju Vastaris at center. He's going to have a big-time matchup against some physical defensive linemen for Washington. And then Andrew Stuber at tackle. I really like this offensive line. They don't allow they don't get pushed around too much. They don't struggle in pass protection as much as some people would make it out to be. I like this offensive line. I think they're going to do, if they can do a good job, that's going to be very key in this. If they can steal the edge once more against this rowdy Washington defense, their run is going to be like Washington. They're going to want to run the football and do it effectively to try to take some pressure off those pass catchers. Very similar matchups, I think, for both teams. They both play tough secondaries with inexperienced pass catchers. Still be interesting. So let's move to the defenses. Looking at this Washington defense is overshadowed last week by a poor offensive effort. They only had 235 yards. Like linebacker Ulofoshio, he can drop in the coverage. He can come off the edge. I expect him to have a big game. He's going to shine when the moment is the brightest. This guy is one of the nation's best at shedding blocks. He can really get to the ball as well, read screens. He's very athletic in coverage, as I just mentioned. This guy is just a phenomenal. He's probably the best linebacker in college football. And on prime time, he's going to have a big opportunity to show that. Biggest key for me, though, for Washington is probably this pass rush. Can Ryan Bowman, a guy who's been good at times and then very, poor at times. He's very inconsistent throughout his career, but he's taken over games when he's on the ball and he's hot and he's good. He could really alter this game. Cooper McDonald made some good plays last week too. That was the linebackers in whole are very key for this Washington defense. There's times where they like to line up with 2 or 3 linemen on the ball, and they'll drop the rest in the coverage. Let them play in space. They have the guys to do that. Jaxson Sermon played very well from his middle linebacker position last week. This linebacking core is going to give Michigan's offense some fits, I think. They're going to have the potential to. We'll see who wins that matchup, but these linebackers are no joke. They're really good. The ability to defend the run on the interior is really what stands out most about them. Ulofoshio is a big part in that, as he can just power through anything. So it's going to be interesting. I really like Ulofoshio and these linebackers. I couldn't praise them anymore, really. Outside containment, though, they're really good on the interior. That's going to be very important because, as I mentioned, Michigan, they're pretty good at sealing off the edge and running the ball that way. I think they're going to want that to be their bread and butter. As I mentioned, Vastaris, he has a very big matchup. Tuli Letuligasanaoda at defensive tackle and Sam Tumazi. Well, they're going to line up next to each other. These guys are physical. They're nasty. They're both over 300 pounds, high motors. These guys are they're so fun to watch up front. These guys really get after it. People don't know these names, but I think they should come to the end of the year. These guys are really aggressive, really good. Washington always gets it done in the trenches. That 2-4 defense they like to run. Of course, the linebackers play a big key role on the outside, but these guys up front are really what gets started. For Washington to have defensive success, it really starts with these guys. So if they can stop the run, play good, if they can stop the run, then it lines them up to do good against the pass. This is one of the nation's top secondaries. Kyler Gordon's really athletic. Trent McDuffie, he's so good against the run. Phenomenal outside coverage corner. He's going to test these young wideouts because we mentioned Ronnie Bell's gone. There's a lot of inexperience there. Talented ball players, but McDuffie's a veteran corner, and he's so good. So it's going to be a fun matchup to see how that goes. And then Brendan Radley-Hiles, he's back on a big stage. We'll see how he can hold up in the slot. This Michigan defense, it starts with Aiden Hutchinson at defensive end. He's a complete freak off the edge. He's very bendy. He's a big guy, too. Overall, just a phenomenal playmaker. Big-time matchup with left tackle Jaxson Kirkland, if that's the side they keep him on. That matchup's going to be very key in this game. I like Hutchinson's shot chances. Kirkland is very good in pass protection, though. This guy moves very well for his size. So it's going to be a fun matchup all night long. NFL scouts are certainly going to have that one circled. 325-pound Donovan Jeter, his role is going to be amplified even more because if Hutchinson gets neutralized, he's going to have to cause penetration and try to bottle up this run, this pass, whatever Washington's feeling. He's going to have to be there to bottle it up if Hutchinson's not able to make an impact. The defensive line depth, it's going to be tested, Again, this offensive line, very big, very powerful. If Washington can run the ball like we expect them to, like I think they should, then they could really run down this defensive line. Michigan last year against Wisconsin and Penn State, similar offensive lines, guys that like to run the ball with aggressiveness. That's their bread and butter offensively. Teams that did that last year, they got absolutely smoked on the ground by them. I think Wisconsin had 300+. Penn State wasn't far behind. I could see a similar performance playing out here from Washington. So defensive line depth will be tested. Joe Ross at linebacker, he's gonna have to play a big role in trying to slow that down as well. I don't think they can just lean on their defensive linemen in this game, because I feel like it could get out of hand on the ground, though. So very, very important aspect of this defense for Michigan. Very interested to see how the zone coverage from Mike and McDonald works out. Avoid these corners being left on islands last year. That absolutely destroyed them. Throughout Don Brown's tenure, that was their biggest problem. They have a great safety duo, Brad Hawkins, Daxton Hill. This vertical passing game, I think it's going to be taken away. They already have lack of depth and experience at receiver. And then you take this zone into account with two great safeties. It's going to be hard for Washington to get anything downfield. German Green and Vincent Gray, these guys are continuing to progress at corner. They had their ups and downs last season. I think this matchup kind of favors them as well. But I think more importantly, again, the safeties, that's going to do so much in dictating how this game goes and how they play against this Washington offense. I think the front seven, though, they're going to fight hard. I think they're going to try and collapse the run because they realize they have an edge in the secondary. And I think they might be able to play a little bit of man if they want to. You're going to see a lot more zone this year. But I feel like they have such an edge against the receiving core. I just do not have a lot of faith in Washington's receiving group whatsoever. So I think you might see a lot of loaded boxes, at least early on from Michigan. Try to slow that down, try to get that offensive line's number, and then go from there and see how it works out, see who makes adjustments. But I think early on that's what the game plan might be, is try to load the box a little bit, slow down the run. And because I'm not sure if they're going to respect this passing game or not. It doesn't sound like I have a lot of high praise for it. We'll see how Michigan responds and see if they respond accordingly. Looking at who's got the edge, we'll start with quarterback. I'm giving a slight edge to Cade McNamara. I think being at home is really going to help him for this game only. If Washington had some more healthy pass catchers, I'd probably give it to Dylan Morris. Very small sample sizes for both. Both are still in the middle single digits in career starts. So not a lot to work with there. But again, I think McNamara is more of a gamer than Morris is. I don't think Morris can make the same plays with his physical attributes as McNamara can. I trust him to pick up some first downs with his legs, make plays out the pocket. Can't really say the same about Morris. Both running back groups are kind of even. I named 3 running backs from each team. They could all see carries. I'm going to give the slight edge to Michigan. A big fan of Blake Corum, his versatility. That's going to give him an edge. Donovan Edwards, too, a highly ranked guy coming out of high school. So I'm going to give Michigan the edge at running back. Again, kind of even at pass catcher, but Michigan gets the edge here. Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, they have some guys I think they're probably going to be ready to take over the spotlight. A lot of inexperience, but I think they're ready for this moment. They're playing a tough defense, so you don't know how many looks they're going to get. But I trust their receiving core much more than I do Washington's. Fully healthy, I still like it a little bit more. I think Giles Jaxson could get a lot of looks for Washington. But overall, Michigan, I think they have a pretty big edge at receiver. Looking at the offensive line, as I noted, one of the most powerful in college football, Washington. They get a slight edge here. I had high praise for Michigan's offensive line. Washington, though, these guys could all move a truck. And if they can get back to their ways in this offensive line, it's one of the nation's best. It was one of my favorites coming into the year. Jaxson, Kirkland, he's probably going to be a first-round pick next year. Looking at the pass rush, Aiden Hutchinson at Michigan's there. But other than that, I think Washington has the edge on a pass rush. On a good day, these guys are really tough. As I noted, their defensive tackles, big, massive, nasty guys, high motors. But Cooper McDonald, Ryan Bowman, I like these guys. I think they're going to have a big year. As I noted, Bowman's inconsistent off the edge. But if you could get what you expect from him, then this pass rush is going to, bottle things up for McNamara in this offense. And then Ulofoshio at linebacker, he kind of contributes to the pass rush because he can kind of do it all. I like these Washington linebackers. I keep talking about them. They kind of go hand in hand with their pass rush. With the defense they like to play, their linebackers will play multiple different roles for them. Secondary, Washington, again, they have an edge. Trent McDuffie is one of the nation's top corners. Very physical against the run and the pass. He can play press. He can drop back and make some good plays with his hands. So I give them the edge, even though the safeties for Michigan are highly impressive. I don't think their corners are as good as Washington's. So, it's kind of neck and neck at every position. I give Washington some slight edges, gave Michigan some slight edges. So I think these teams are pretty evenly matched in terms of current talent, current starters. I think Michigan might have a little bit more depth, but all around, very impressive rosters. This should be a fun game. Special teams, I give that edge to Michigan. Jason Moody, he was 1 for 4 on field goals last year, went 2 of 2 last week. Neither of these teams are exactly impressive on special teams, but I'll give Michigan the edge, especially being at home. My final thoughts and the prediction on this game. What Washington will need to do to win? They need to run the ball, be efficient, be effective, grind down that defensive line that has question marks with its depth. Give Dylan Morris and those pass catchers short conversion attempts. You don't want to leave them in third and 10 or longer, 3rd and 7 really. I'd like to see these guys get to 3rd and 4 and shorter. That'd make me feel much more confident in his pass catchers being able to do work. Because I don't like their playmaking abilities at all. I didn't see it last week in that 4th quarter against Montana. Nobody could catch a pass other than Cade Otton. So get these guys in short conversions. Allow them to just sit there in the zone, make some plays. I don't ask too much of them. So if you can run the ball and get those short conversion opportunities, that would be ideal for Washington. What Michigan needs to do to win, be consistent with outside containment. I think on both sides, seal the run, clog those linebackers up, don't let them get to make plays in space. And then Washington, a big, powerful offensive line, force them back inside. Don't let them try to get to the edge and beat you up there. I think that's going to be really key. And then be efficient offensively, flip the field. I think Washington's offense is going to struggle in this game pretty immensely. So I think you should, if you can be efficient, I'm not asking McNamara to go out there and throw for 400 yards or anything like that. I'm not asking for him to run for 300 yards either. I think if they can just be efficient, pick up a first down or 2, get to midfield, punt it away, they'll flip the field. I think that will really help them. That's going to set them up to score. I think that's what will happen. I think both offenses are going to play really great, but like I said, I think Michigan's going to capitalize off some short fields. I'm going to pick them to win 24-10. But again, Washington, they'll have a big edge if they can run the ball like I expect them to with this offensive line. That's going to be the key, though. How does Michigan fare against the run? If they can stop that, then it's going to be a tough outing for the Huskies. I'm going to take Michigan. Really confident in Harbaugh and this team. I'm not sure why. I just have a feeling that these guys are going to come out and play a really good game on Saturday night. So that's going to be it for this episode. Make sure you guys leave a comment, and subscribe. See you next time.